You have questions? We have answers. Welcome to the Therapist Question Box with your host, Miss Lindsay Schiss.
Welcome back to another episode of the Therapist Question Box. We are here to answer your toughest questions. And honestly, that is what keeps this podcast lively and exciting, is your questions. So write in and ask your questions. We are here to answer them. Today I have with me Whitney Wakefield. Whitney, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you. Well, honestly, it's fun. Whitney has such a great energy about her, and I'm excited to have you on the show. Whitney is actually a new therapist at Therapy Utah and first time on the show. So Whitney, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah. So I've been doing therapy for a little bit and I just love it. I think my favorite thing about therapy is getting to sit in a room with someone and seeing their potential and their gifts and the things that make them so special. And the fact that they don't realize it, it's my favorite part to help them get to the point where they do realize it.
Love that.
And so
isn't that why we do what we do?
Yes.
Like it's there. You're not discovering it, but you're helping them see it.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that.
And so I just love that discovery process with the people that I get to work with. And I have had the best moments in session. And I think that the growth that not only they have, but I experience as a therapist is what keeps me going. Because over the last little bit, I've had a lot of opportunities to work with primarily children and teens with OCD and anxiety disorders. But I've worked with a bunch of other struggles as well. But I just think that people are incredible and the things that they worry about don't make them weird. It's just kind of part of their brain trying to keep them safe. And it's been just super cool to love them and support them through that process and help them realize that they're not crazy. They're just experiencing craziness in a crazy world and they're trying to figure out how to manage all the crazy.
But isn't that you said that and kind of just passed over it? Actually, it's their brain just trying to keep them safe.
Yes.
And when they realize they're not crazy and it's normal, there is such an amazing relief that comes from that.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
So I love that. That's awesome.
So anyways, I always tell people are my passion. That's why I do what I do. And so even though I've worked a lot with OCD and anxiety, I've worked a lot with couples and depression and trauma and all sorts of things, but people are my passion. And so I just love that I get to work with people every day.
I love that. Well, and you're in a great field. If people are your passion, right? And I say that same thing. And when people ask oh, therapy's got to be such a drag or it's got to be hard. How do you come home every day? And I'm it's because of what you just said.
Yeah.
We see people's lives change. We see miracles. I really think it's such a sacred space to walk 100%. Alongside somebody as they're going through a healing journey and I always think of it like a Sherpa. I'm not carrying you and I'm not pulling you. I'm just right beside you, kind of helping you up the mountain. And what a privilege to be able to do that.
Yeah. And when you can't carry your pack, I'll carry part of it for you until you're ready to unpack whatever it is that you need.
Yeah.
And so it's true. It's the best thing ever.
I love it. I feel like you found the right profession. It's awesome.
Thanks.
I love that. So great. Okay, perfect. Well, let's go ahead and we'll just dive right into the question. And I think it's a really good one. And here's why, because I relate to this. This is a person and it's just a pretty brief question and I'll go ahead and start it. It's, why do I worry about my future?
Wow. How perfect.
Right? And how many of us can relate to that?
I think all of us can, because I think all of us at different times in our life have had the same thing. Oh my gosh, I'm worried about this. I'm worried about that. I think it's a very normal question to worry and to be concerned about things that could come in
Absolutely.
the future.
Absolutely. So let's dive into, first of all, where does worry come from?
I think that worry is kind of like what I said earlier, the brain just trying to protect and to manage expectations for what could go wrong in the future. Because all of us have expectations for life, whether we're aware of them or not. And worry is there, I think, sometimes to point out what our expectations are and what we think might happen or what could go wrong, because we care a lot about what's going to happen. And so worry is our brain's way of trying to keep us safe and manage what could possibly go wrong, especially when it's something we care a lot about.
Yeah.
And usually the future we care a lot about,
right?
Because we want it to go well.
Yes, absolutely. But here's the thing. The worry doesn't really do anything.
Yeah.
Right? So our brain's trying to keep us safe. It's trying to manage and maybe control some things. But the truth is, it doesn't do anything. So why does our brain keep going back to that and back to that? Like, it can feel very frustrating when you know that, like, this worry doesn't really produce anything, but my brain keeps going back there. What would you say to that?
If I'm hearing you right, Lindsay, it's like my brain keeps going back to this worry, even though it's not doing anything for me.
It's not productive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the brain feels like it is productive because it's like, well, if I worry about this, I'm doing something about it, right? Like, I'm doing something about my future, even if I'm not. And so our brain's like, this is productive because I'm thinking about it. I'm worried about it, even if it's not being productive. So I think it's just our brain's way of feeling like we're in control, even if we're not, because we're thinking about it, we're obsessing over it.
Yes. So I actually, with a client today, we were talking about anxiety, and I was like, hey, I was born anxious. I feel like this is my thing. And I've done a lot of work around my own anxiety and understanding my own anxiety. And I remember one of the things I read about anxiety was anxious people that worry a lot are two things. They are bright and they're creative.
Oh, yeah.
And their brain needs something to do. Right?
Yeah.
So it's like your brain needs to feel, like you said, productive. So it makes sense that even though it's maybe not doing anything, your brain's like, hey, I'm doing something. I'm trying to make sure we're going to be okay. And this is my way of doing it.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah, 100%. Because in order to be anxious, you have to be super creative to think of all these things that are going to go wrong. Like, I love the second Inside Out because I think it shows anxiety in a really smart way, that it's a part of us. It's not all of us, but it's a part of us that sometimes likes to take over, and it tells us all these crazy stories. And the people that come up with the craziest stories are so cool. I often tell my clients, like, hey, the fact that you could come up with a story like that is insane and so cool that your brain is that creative to come up with all those things.
Yeah.
Like, that's so cool. Like, I wish we could make that into a movie, because all of those things that you just said would be such an epic movie.
Right.
But we don't know if it's going to happen or not.
But here's part of the problem.
Yes.
Is instead of saying, oh, that's so cool, your brain comes up with it, what do? We judge our worries and say, I must be crazy because look at where my brain went. Look at what I thought about, right? And then that creates a secondary problem.
Yes.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah, because then not only are we worried about the future, but then we're judging ourselves, and then a little bit of shame can come in.
Right.
And shame is probably one of the hardest things we can do on ourselves, because then it's not oh, look at this thing that's going on in life. It's look at me. What's wrong with me in my life?
Yeah. And that becomes very personal. Like, I've got a problem. Something's wrong with me. So let's just go back to that client that's giving you this crazy story and you're like, that's amazing. We can make a movie out of this, right? Yeah. How does that client not feel crazy with that? Like when you're saying it is wild what they come up with, how do you not judge yourself? How can you go, you know what? That is wild. Interesting. That's where my brain went. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
I think for me, like, because I've had times in my life where I've gotten anxious about my future and about things. I've had to start naming my stories as to kind of what it is. Oh, it's my I'm not good enough story, or it's because all of the stories we come up with have like a rooted theme at the very bottom. And so if we can recognize what the theme is that our story's about and we name it, then it doesn't feel so crazy, because it's like, oh, there's that story that I've told about myself sometimes. I know it's not, maybe it's true, maybe it's not, that doesn't matter, but it's unhelpful for what I'm trying to do in my life.
Okay, I love that idea that you just said, that it's stories. Because if we look at it as story, then I can say it distances me from it, right? And also, a story is often not true.
Yeah.
It's a story.
Yeah.
So if I can look at it as a story, then I don't have to say, oh, this is really true, or it's going to happen, or because I think of it, I'm crazy.
Yeah.
I can just look at it as, that's the story. Yeah. And I like the idea of the theme. That's really powerful. Like that there's a theme.
Because every story we read, there's a theme to it. A story the author, or a theme the author is trying to get across to us. And a lot of times those themes are things that we can learn and grow from. But sometimes the themes that our brains like to tell us are the really horrible things that are going to happen, because it's like, we don't want to feel hurt. We don't want to feel bad. So let me tell you this story so you can be already feeling that way. So if it comes, you're not like disappointed.
Isn't that interesting? Do you think that works?
No.
It doesn't. I agree. It doesn't work, right? But we're trying to help keep ourselves from hurting or being unsafe. And that's our brain's way to do it.
Because we don't like to be uncomfortable. I don't like to be uncomfortable.
No, neither do I.
I don't think you like to be uncomfortable either.
Yeah.
So our brain's like, here, let's stop it now. You can handle it now, and then you can handle it in the future. But it's like, well, oftentimes the stories that are true are the ones that are biographies, things that have been written later on when they already know the beginning from the end. When we're writing our stories in the middle of it, we often always go to this horrible ending when it's like, well, usually things that are horrible and hard to go through usually have some beauty in them, and we wouldn't appreciate them without some of those hard. And so the biographies often are like those really cool, like, wow, but they have their whole life to look at, versus when you're in the middle of it, it's so easy to just dwell on the really hard because you can't see how that really hard is becoming something beautiful until you get to the end.
Isn't that so? That's such a good way to look at it. It's perspective. If I have perspective, I can look back and say, oh my gosh, this made sense. This messy part actually turned into something beautiful. But I like to call it the messy middle.
Yes.
I think a lot of times we're in the messy middle and we want to hear that awesome story of redemption or courage, but we're not there. So we don't know what it's going to be, and we're trying to manage what that outcome might be. Yeah. Such a good reminder. So let's look at this. When people start to worry, are there any common triggers that you see in clients, like where you're like, this becomes worrisome, or this is where I see worry show up for people?
I see it when there is a lot of unknown in a situation. The unknown, I think, produces the most worry, or feelings that they're not totally comfortable with. Because it's like, oh, what is that? I don't know what that is. And then their brain has to understand it. And so they draw a conclusion to it. When you're just feeling something, that's not good, it's not bad. It's your way of understanding the world that you live in, because there's so many things around us that our brain's just pulling in so much information. And if we can't understand something, it's like, oh, what is that? Tell me more. And it tends to futurize and think the worst of it when it's just information to help you process what's going on around you.
That is, again, I think it's like, it just normalizes it, right? It just like normalizes what is going on for you. I don't know if I've shared this before on the podcast. I don't think I have, but I, after having a baby, had a lot of anxiety, and it was my last one. And I went to my therapist at the time and told him what I was worried about. And I thought he was going to be like, you're crazy. Like, oh no, we're really worried. And he started laughing and he said, oh my gosh, Lindsay, that sounds like an overwhelmed mother. That's what that sounds like. And if you knew some of the things that some of my clients were worried about, and he went on and told me something that his client had worried about, and he didn't tell me who it was, but honestly, it was like this moment for me where I was like, oh my gosh, I can't tell you, I felt all of a sudden seen and not crazy. All of a sudden I thought, I'm not crazy. Like, look at that. I'm okay. There are other people that have way crazier stories than I do. And like, it's actually okay. It's normal. It was my brain trying to make sense of it. But I think what you said is really important. I got into a lot of judgment about it. Like there was a lot of unknowns and I didn't know what to do. And so I just made up a story, and then my story felt very scary. And so I made up all this judgment about me. So it was like I was piling on top of each other, instead of just saying, interesting, that's a story. And being able to to just look at it for a story. Instead, I went and judged it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, instead of pulling it out, you pulled it in, which I think it's easy to kind of pull inside and like look at all of it from all of your worries and all your insecurities, because you only have the things that have happened to you in the past to back it up.
Right.
Versus what's going to happen to back it up.
Right.
And so like all of us have those situations and things in our lives that are like, oh, that was really hard. That was really scary. And so it just kind of compiles on top of it. But I'm really glad you had a moment where your therapist was like, look, you're normal.
Oh my gosh. I can't even tell you. I was like, he was worth his weight in gold for that statement alone.
Yes.
Truly. I got done and I was like, oh my gosh, he thought it was funny. He thought I was normal. Like, I just sound like an overwhelmed mom. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Like, normalizing that experience is so healing in and of itself. I can't even explain. And I think part of it is when we're willing to talk about what's going on in our heads. And you said it. You said, sometimes it's actually saying what's going on for us. It's saying, you know what, I'm having this experience, because I think sometimes we feel shame about it. We feel embarrassed. Oh yeah. And then what happens? It just gets worse and worse.
Yeah. I remember, I feel like I have the best parents in the world. I feel like I got super lucky. I know a lot of people don't feel like they can say that.
Sure.
And my heart goes out to them, because I know that when you have people in your life that you can rely on in a very like intimate, real way, it can be life-changing, and it can be awesome to have that support. And so I love being a therapist because I can be that support support for people when they don't have it in their lives. But my parents have been that support for me, and they've been super good. And I remember recently I had this really big worry, and I was kind of freaking out about something. And I was like, Mom, Dad, I don't know what to do. And I told them about it, and they just kind of laughed at me. And I know that sounds funny that it was like, but that was exactly what I needed in that moment, to kind of be laughed at, because it was like, okay, this really isn't as big of a deal as I thought that it was. And I'm just fine. Yes. And so I think laughter is this underutilized tool that when we're worried about our future, if we can look at it and be like, okay, that's actually kind of funny that I'm going to that point, because maybe it does happen, but I'm not going to die.
Right.
And maybe something great will happen. I don't know. But I love that you said that, like, just laughing about it, because it reminded me of that time with my parents that I got to laugh about something. I'm like, okay, you're right. I'm totally fine.
Yes,
I don't need to worry about this.
Right? And isn't it nice to have somebody that's like, it's fine. You're not crazy. And it's funny, actually. Right?
Yes.
Like, and we can all laugh and go, okay, that's fine. We've all had those moments.
Yes.
Yeah.
And not like using laughter as like this avoidance, but like okay, no, like,
like
you're
this
right.
is actually
a reality check.
But here's the truth. It's a reality check, because it's not real.
Yeah.
You're making up something in your brain, right? That's actually not real. It's a story that you're telling yourself.
And stories can be so funny.
Yes.
So scary, but so funny. Like it's kind of like we're almost to Halloween season, right? Like we're we're getting closer. And whenever I go through a haunted house, which are full of these scary things, I always have to name the characters as I go through, so they don't seem so scary to me.
Wait, what do you mean? Like, how are you naming? I'm like, help me to understand.
I'll walk through and I'll see a clown, and I'll be like, oh my gosh, it's Betty. Hi, Betty. And I'll just name these characters as I go through a haunted house, because they don't seem so scary to me. And I think if we can do that with our anxiety, they won't feel so scary, because we're able to name and recognize that it's just a part of us. That's part of the haunted house. It's part of this thing that we're experiencing of life. Like if life is a haunted house, as we go through and we see all these characters, some characters are going to try and jump out and scare us, but they also might be there to help us enjoy the experience too. And I think they both have both sides. I don't think life is a haunted house. I think it's actually full of so much good, with the hard too. But if we name what's happening to us and we kind of get it outside of us by like naming it, it doesn't have to be so scary.
And it doesn't feel so, it's me.
Yes.
I can name it. So therefore it's not me. It's away from me. There's also options about going through haunted houses. You could just not go.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm thinking
It's
of
true.
me. I'm like, I am done with haunted houses. I finished those a long time ago, but I love that you go through and you're like, I'm so scared. I name them.
Yes.
And I'm like, and I don't like them. I don't like people jumping out at me. And so I'm like, and that's something I don't do, but I love that you name it, because you're like, I still go. That's awesome.
Yeah. But like avoiding going through, right? Like we have all these options with life, right? Like we can move forward and try and become somebody, even if that feeling of worry doesn't like leave us. Like as we're walking through that haunted house, that person oftentimes tries to follow you to scare you again. Betty,
yeah. You never know.
You never know when Betty's going to come back. But we can choose to go through and see what's going to happen, or we can choose to stay at the beginning and never know. But sometimes the best journeys happen when we just start. But it's oft that feeling of worry gets us to a place where we don't want to start looking at the future or moving towards our future, because you never know if another Betty or a Frank or a Paul is going to jump out at you.
That's right.
But I don't know. I think anxiety tries to keep us stuck. But when we stay stuck, we don't get to live or become the people that we want to become. And I think that's anxiety's biggest downfall.
I agree with you. I think it keeps you scared. It can keep you small, and it can keep you not moving to become who you ultimately can become. And it can be debilitating.
Yes.
I think those of us, I don't know about you, but that have experienced a lot of anxiety know how debilitating it can feel.
Absolutely.
And so tell me how you think therapy can help people that feel paralyzed by their anxiety.
Yeah, I think people, when they are paralyzed by their anxiety, they don't have someone to be that reality check like we've talked about. And a therapist can be that person to give you a solid reality check or help you to learn how to become a reality check for yourself. Because I think that we can go to therapy and we can learn these tools and we can kind of learn these reality checks that we have for ourselves. But it also helps us identify who we want to be, who we want to become, and how to become that, even if the anxiety never leaves. And so I think that the biggest thing therapy can do is help point you in the direction of who you want to be and where you want to go in life, and how to give you the tools to manage anxiety when it comes up so you can still become that person.
I love that. I love that idea that it's understanding not just this moment. We're not just in the messy middle forever, but who are you? Who do you want to become?
Yeah.
And then keeping that as the focus and having tools to help you get there.
Yeah.
That's what I'm hearing you say.
Because I think sometimes we get so focused on what do we want out of life versus who do we want to become in life, that's kind of where the anxiety comes from, is because we can't control the outcome.
Yes. Amen.
And that's so hard sometimes because we feel like we can. And so anxiety helps us feel like we're controlling the outcome because at least we're doing something, right?
At least in our brain we are, right? Yeah. And it's not real. Yeah. I do think that clients that I work with and my own experience, I know so much comes from when we drill down. Well, then why are we doing this? Okay, let's get rid of that. Why are you doing that? What's the fear there? What's the fear there? It often comes back to control. Like, I can't control this, so I'm trying to manage it and control it. And I don't, in fact, have control. And I think it's recognizing that. At some point going, there's a lot of things we don't have control over. And we actually just have to surrender that control and recognize this is what I can control and what I can't. And recognize there's actually a lot of things in our life we can't control. And some of that is hard. And some of that can feel really scary. But I think there's a practice of surrender too. Like, this is what I can and can't control, and surrendering what you can't control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's hard to let it go because we just want to hold on to it so tight. Because it feels like we're in control of something.
When we're worrying.
Yep. But there's a lot of beauty in kind of creating space for that worry to be there. And when I say creating space, it's not you have to like it. You don't have to like feeling worried or anxious, but it's just allowing that to be there while still looking to who do I want to become, even if this outcome doesn't get there. Because at least along the journey, I'm gathering skills or learning something about myself or about life that I wouldn't have gotten if I didn't move forward, whether that anxiety left or not.
That sounds so courageous, really. Like, I'm moving forward, even with anxiety. And you know what? A lot of people are going to have that, like, moving forward because I've gotten clear. This is who I want to become. And I'm not going to let anxiety keep me back from becoming who I want to become. Yeah. I think of that saying, like, fake it till you make it. Yeah. Right? Like, it may not be what you feel and what you want, but we're saying, actually, this is who you want to be. So we're going to just keep taking steps. That feels so courageous because it's like, it is easier to stay stuck, or it feels safer to stay stuck, but we're not honoring who we ultimately can become and want to become. Yeah. And that doesn't mean that step has to be huge, right? It can be just tiny. A simple, teeny tiny thing, but it's getting you in the direction you want to go. And oftentimes that little step forward is the step that you need to keep you on that path. Yeah. And to keep you becoming that person. And it can be scary because you don't know what's going to come. But I think that those scary, unsure moments are what actually lead to the most possibilities. Because if you're not willing to embrace discomfort just a little bit, then we're not letting ourselves open to the possibility of something incredible happening either. Yeah. And growth doesn't come in comfort. No. Darn it. Shoot. That would be awesome, but it doesn't. And so recognizing just that, okay, if I'm growing, I'm probably going to be a little uncomfortable. Yeah. And just keep pushing that, right? And it's not saying, okay, you got to be wildly uncomfortable all the time, but just recognizing that. And what I hear too is, that feels like self-trust. If I'm really clear, this is who I am, this is who I want to be, and I'm taking even tiny steps to become that, I start to trust myself. Like, you know what? This is what matters to me, and I'm honoring that value. I'm honoring, I'm going towards it, even if it feels scary, even if I don't know the outcome, even if I don't know what's going to be at the end. I'm still walking in that direction. And sometimes it may not be walking. Sometimes it might just be turning towards the direction. And that might feel really courageous. Yeah. Right? So I love that. And how beautiful that you get to choose, right? Because we can choose to worry. We can't control when we're worried or not. That's just going to be there. But we can choose how to respond to it. And I think that's empowering. That we still have a choice, even with our worry, to turn one way or another, whether that's turning to becoming someone we want or turning to the worry and letting the worry take over. I love that. But we're in charge.
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I love that. So Whitney, so many great insights. Is there anything that we didn't talk about that you feel like is really important for our listeners? Did we hit on most everything?
I think we hit on most things, but I think the biggest thing I would say is if you're worrying right now, I want to be a reality check that you're normal and you're not crazy for worrying about the future, especially since if you're worrying about it, it's probably something that's really important to you.
Yeah.
And if it's important to you, then it's important to us. And even though we can't control that outcome, that who knows what could happen, but it could be something that'll change your life for the better too. And that you still have control in what you choose to do and who you choose to become. And your story isn't over yet. And
Amen.
It can still be beautiful and incredible because you have gifts inside of you that will help you work through that worry.
Amen. I love that. Thank you. So many great insights. And again, I think something that every person can use. We all experience anxious thoughts or worry, certainly about our future.
Yeah.
And I appreciate this listener's question because I think it's can resonate with every one of us.
No matter what stage of life we're in,
That's
right?
right. Because we're in the messy middle at somewhere,
Yes.
right? Some stage of life. I just want to recap a couple of things you said. I loved your reminder that it's our brain trying to keep us safe. It doesn't feel that way, but that's what our brain is trying to do. The reminder that these are stories that we're just telling ourselves. They're stories. And when we look at that way, we can laugh at them. I loved your story of your parents. Like we can just laugh at it and understand like, this isn't real. This is a story in our head.
Yeah.
And then naming the stories. I thought that was really beneficial. Like this is my, what did you call it? What story?
I'm not
enough.
good enough
Yeah,
story.
I'm not good enough story.
Yeah.
I love that. And that the unknown produces the most worry that, we don't know. So we're trying to make sense of it. It makes sense. Our brain's trying to do that work. And that when we worry, it's a really good indicator that it's something that's important to us. So pay attention to that.
Yeah.
I think, I remember talking to someone about OCD and them saying, usually it attacks people's values, the things that are most important to them. And so it's so upsetting because it's like, ooh, why would I think that thought or be doing that? And then ruminate and worry. But instead of, and if we could take a step back and say, actually, that shows really your values.
Yeah.
That's really your values. That's not an indicator that you're crazy. It's just your worries there because that really matters to you.
Yeah. I was going to say the exact same thing. If you can recognize what you're worried about in the future, there's probably a value there that you're 100%. Not sure.
But that feels so empowering.
Yes.
Like that's not a weakness. That's a strength. Look at that as information. It's awesome. So excellent. Well, Whitney, thanks so much for joining us today. So many great insights. If you or someone find yourself worrying, having anxiety, I hope you'll share this podcast. I think it's something that all of us can utilize at one time or another, and hope that it is something that will benefit you or those you love. Hope this was helpful for you, and until next time, take care.